Hello there. Welcome to Drifting Off Learning Channel. You have arrived at this quiet moment, this gentle pause at the end of your day, and that arrival is itself a small accomplishment worth acknowledging. Wherever you are resting now, in whatever softness surrounds you, know that you have found a place of peace, a sanctuary where nothing is demanded of you, where the only expectation is that you allow yourself to rest. The hours behind you have asked much of you, have filled your attention with tasks and thoughts and the constant hum of modern life. But now, in this still and quiet space, you may set all of that aside, letting it drift away like mist rising from a calm lake in the early morning light. Let your body settle more completely into whatever holds you. Feel the weight of your limbs, the gentle pull of gravity that asks nothing more than that you release your effort to hold yourself upright. You have been holding yourself up all day in ways both visible and invisible, and now you may stop. The surface beneath you is ready to accept your full weight, to support you completely without any effort on your part. Your muscles can soften now. Your joints can ease. Your breath can find its own slow and natural rhythm without any direction from your conscious mind. If you find comfort in returning to this channel, in these gentle words spoken in the darkness, you are warmly welcome to subscribe, to make this a place you visit whenever rest feels distant or elusive. But there is no urgency in that invitation. No pressure. It is simply an open door, left ajar for you, should you ever wish to walk through it again. Tonight, we will turn our attention softly to the subject of forgotten human abilities, those remarkable capacities that our ancestors possessed and that still linger within us, dormant perhaps, but not entirely gone. These are the skills and senses and ways of knowing that served humanity for hundreds of thousands of years, that allowed our species to survive and thrive in every environment on Earth, that connected us intimately to the world around us in ways that modern life has largely set aside. There is something deeply restful in contemplating these abilities, something that reminds us of who we are beneath the surface of our busy lives. Something that connects us to the long line of human beings who came before us, who looked up at the same stars and felt the same earth beneath their feet. Our ancestors possessed an ability to navigate across vast distances without any of the tools we now consider essential. They could travel hundreds of miles across featureless landscapes, through dense forests, over mountain ranges, and across open water. And they could do this without maps or compasses, without GPS or marked trails. This ability, sometimes called natural navigation or wayfinding, relied on a deep and constant attention to the world around them, an awareness of subtle cues that most of us no longer notice. The position of the sun, the patterns of stars, the direction of prevailing winds, the way moss grows on certain sides of trees, the subtle changes in vegetation that indicate proximity to water. All of these and countless more were read continuously, woven together into an internal sense of place and direction that was as reliable as any modern technology. The human brain contains structures that are capable of this kind of navigation, and in those who use these abilities regularly, these structures are notably larger and more developed. The hippocampus, that seahorse-shaped region deep in the brain that processes spatial memory, grows measurably in people who navigate complex environments without technological assistance. Taxi drivers in large cities, before the advent of satellite navigation, developed enlarged hippocampi from their constant mental mapping of streets and routes. This suggests that the capacity for natural navigation is not truly lost, but merely dormant, waiting to be awakened by use. The ability is still there, sleeping within us like a seed, waiting for the right conditions to germinate. Indigenous peoples around the world maintained these navigational abilities well into the modern era, and some continue to practice them today. The Polynesian navigators who crossed thousands of miles of open Pacific Ocean used the stars, the patterns of ocean swells, the behavior of birds, and the subtle changes in water color and temperature to find their way between islands that were invisible over the horizon. They created mental maps of the ocean that allowed them to sail with remarkable precision across waters that would seem completely featureless to untrained eyes. The Aboriginal peoples of Australia navigated their vast continent using songlines, paths across the land that were encoded in songs and stories, each landmark associated with verses that, when sung in sequence, guided the traveler across hundreds of miles of bush and desert. There is something restful in imagining this kind of intimate relationship with the land, this constant, gentle awareness of where one is and which direction one is facing. It is a way of being in the world that does not fight against the environment, but flows with it, that does not impose a grid upon the landscape, but learns to read the landscape's own language. This ability is still within you, still coded in your genes and in the ancient structures of your brain. It sleeps now as you are beginning to sleep, but it has not vanished entirely. Our ancestors also possessed remarkable abilities to read the weather, to sense the approach of storms and changes in conditions long before they arrived. They did not have barometers or satellite images or weather forecasts on their devices. Instead, they attended to the world with a kind of patient, continuous awareness that allowed them to notice the subtle signs of coming change, the particular quality of the light before a storm, the way birds behave when pressure is falling, the feeling of the air on the skin when humidity is rising, the shapes and movements of clouds, the direction and temperature of the wind. All of these were read as naturally as we might read words on a page. There are still people who retain some of this sensitivity, who can feel in their bodies when the weather is about to change. The ache in old injuries when pressure drops, the restlessness that comes before a storm. These are remnants of a more comprehensive weather sense that once kept our ancestors safe from dangerous conditions. Sailors and farmers, shepherds and hunters, all developed this sensitivity through long exposure to the elements, through the necessity of paying attention to the sky and the wind. The ability was not magical or mysterious, but simply the result of attentive observation over time. The accumulation of experience into a kind of bodily knowledge that operated below the level of conscious thought. Imagine living so closely attuned to the sky that you could feel the approach of rain the way you might feel the approach of sleep. A subtle shift in the quality of your experience. A change in the texture of the air around you. This is how our ancestors lived, in constant conversation with the weather, never entirely separate from the atmospheric systems that moved across the land. Their survival depended on this conversation, and so they became fluent in a language that most of us have forgotten how to speak. The ability to track animals is another capacity that has largely faded from common human experience. For most of human history, the ability to read the signs left by animals, to follow their trails across the land, was essential for survival. Hunters needed to know where their prey had gone, how long ago it had passed, whether it was healthy or injured, whether it was alone or in a group. This knowledge was written in the landscape, in the bent grass and the disturbed soil, in the marks left on bark and the patterns of droppings, in the subtle changes in the behavior of birds and insects that indicated the recent passage of larger creatures. The Sand people of the Kalahari Desert are among those who have maintained these tracking abilities into the modern era, and their skills have been studied by scientists who find them remarkable. A skilled sand tracker can look at a footprint and determine not only what animal made it, but also its sex, its approximate age, its state of health, whether it was walking or running, and how long ago it passed. They can follow a trail across rocky ground where no visible tracks remain, reading signs so subtle that researchers with scientific training cannot detect them. This ability is not superhuman, but simply human. The application of attention and experience to the reading of the world. The human brain evolved in conditions where this kind of tracking was essential, and the cognitive abilities that make tracking possible are still part of our neural architecture. The capacity to notice patterns, to make inferences from partial information, to construct mental models of events we did not witness. These are the foundations of tracking, and they are also the foundations of many other human cognitive achievements. The detective solving a crime, the scientist forming a hypothesis, the historian reconstructing the past, all are engaged in forms of tracking, following trails of evidence to conclusions that were not immediately visible. The ability is still with us, still operating, even if most of us no longer apply it to the prints of animals on the ground. Our ancestors possessed prodigious memories, capacities for recall that seem almost unbelievable to modern minds accustomed to outsourcing memory to written records and digital devices. Before writing was invented, all human knowledge was stored in human minds, passed from generation to generation through oral tradition. This required memories of extraordinary depth and reliability. The ability to hold vast amounts of information, from genealogies to laws to stories to practical knowledge, and to transmit it accurately over decades and centuries. The techniques that made this possible are still accessible to us, and some people continue to use them. The method of loci, sometimes called the memory palace technique, involves imagining a familiar space and placing items to be remembered at specific locations within that space. By mentally walking through the space, the items can be recalled in sequence. This technique was used by orators in the ancient world to remember long speeches, and it is still used by memory champions today, who can memorize the order of shuffled decks of cards or long strings of random digits. The technique works because human spatial memory is remarkably robust, a legacy of our navigating ancestors who needed to remember the locations of resources across vast territories. Indigenous cultures developed sophisticated memory systems that allowed for the retention and transmission of enormous amounts of cultural knowledge. The Aboriginal peoples of Australia, for example, encoded complex information about the land, including locations of water sources, seasonal food availability, and historical events, in songs, dances, and stories tied to specific places. This knowledge could be passed down accurately for thousands of years, allowing the cumulative wisdom of countless generations to be available to each new generation. This is not a lesser form of information storage than writing, but simply a different one that was perfected over tens of thousands of years of human experience. There is something peaceful in imagining this kind of memory, a mind that contains landscapes and stories and songs, that carries the knowledge of ancestors back through countless generations. Our minds still have this capacity, still respond to the techniques that make such memory possible. We have not lost the ability so much as we have stopped practicing it, stopped needing it in a world where information is always available at the touch of a screen. But the capacity remains, dormant like so many other forgotten abilities, waiting to be awakened if ever it should be needed again. The human body is capable of remarkable feats of endurance that most of us never approach. Our ancestors were persistence hunters, capable of tracking and pursuing prey over many hours and many miles until the animal, unable to cool itself as efficiently as the sweating human, collapsed from heat exhaustion. This form of hunting required not explosive speed but patient endurance, the ability to maintain a steady pace over rough terrain under the hot sun for hours on end. The human body is uniquely adapted for this kind of sustained effort, with our upright posture, our ability to sweat efficiently, our capacity for storing and utilizing energy over extended periods. There are still people who practice persistence hunting, and there are also modern endurance athletes who demonstrate similar capacities. Ultramarathon runners cover distances that would seem impossible to most people, running 50 or 100 miles at a stretch, continuing through the night and into the next day. Their performance, while exceptional by modern standards, would have been within the range of normal for our ancestors, who regularly covered such distances in pursuit of game or in traveling between campsites. The capacity is still within us, encoded in our physiology, waiting to be developed through training and use. Even without training for extreme endurance, the human body retains a remarkable capacity for sustained effort that most of us rarely access. We are designed to walk for many hours each day, to carry loads over long distances, to climb and bend, and work without rest from dawn to dusk. The sedentary lives that many of us lead represent a dramatic departure from the activity levels that shaped our bodies over millions of years of evolution. The restlessness that comes from too much sitting, the satisfaction that comes from physical exertion. These are echoes of our evolutionary heritage, reminders that our bodies were made for movement, and that the ability to move well and far is still within us. The capacity for breath holding is another forgotten ability that remains latent in most humans. Our distant ancestors spent time in and around water, diving for food, crossing rivers, surviving in coastal environments where the ability to hold one's breath and dive could mean the difference between eating and going hungry. The human body retains adaptations for diving that suggest this watery heritage, including a diving reflex that slows the heart rate and redirects blood flow when the face is submerged in cold water. Free divers who train to hold their breath can descend to remarkable depths on a single breath, staying underwater for several minutes while their bodies undergo physiological changes that allow them to function with minimal oxygen. The world record for static breath holding exceeds 20 minutes, a feat that would seem impossible to anyone who has never trained for it. Yet this capacity is not the result of any genetic mutation or special gift, but simply the development of abilities that are present, in dormant form, in all human bodies. With training, most people can dramatically extend their breath-holding capacity, reawakening an ability that served our ancestors well in aquatic environments. There is something deeply calming about the breath, about the capacity to hold it and to release it, to control its rhythm and its depth. The breathing you are doing now, slow and easy and effortless, is connected to a long history of human breath, to ancestors who dove beneath the waves and surfaced again, who controlled their breathing to remain silent while hunting, who breathed in the smoke of fires and the air of caves and the wind of open plains. Your breath connects you to all of them, to the long line of breathers who came before you and whose exhalations are now part of the air you inhale. The human hand is capable of extraordinary sensitivity and precision, abilities that we rarely fully develop in modern life. Our ancestors made tools with their hands, shaping stone and bone and wood with a precision that required both strength and delicacy. They touched the world directly, without gloves or tools or screens intervening, and their sense of touch was refined by this constant contact. They could feel the quality of a hide, the ripeness of a fruit, the grain of a piece of wood, the texture of the soil. This tactile knowledge informed their work and their survival. The hands contain one of the highest concentrations of nerve endings in the body, and the brain devotes a disproportionately large area to processing touch information from the hands. This neural real estate reflects the importance of manual sensitivity in human evolution, the many ways in which our ancestors needed to gather information through their fingertips. Blind people who learn to read Braille demonstrate how sensitive the fingers can become, detecting slight variations in texture that sighted people would never notice. Surgeons and craftspeople develop similar sensitivity in their own domains, their fingers becoming extensions of their awareness. The capacity is present in all of us, waiting to be developed through use. Imagine your hands resting now, perhaps at your sides, or folded on your chest, feeling the texture of whatever they touch, the temperature and pressure and subtle sensations that flow from the nerve endings in your skin. These are the same kinds of hands that shaped the first tools, that painted the first cave paintings, that wove the first baskets and built the first shelters. The sensitivity that allowed those achievements is still present in your hands, still available should you ever need it. For now, they can simply rest, feeling only the soft contact with fabric or skin, sensing the gentle weight of the night air around them. Our ancestors possessed night vision far more developed than most of us experience today. The human eye is capable of adapting to very low light conditions, with the pupil dilating and the rod cells in the retina becoming increasingly sensitive over a period of about 30 minutes. In complete darkness or near darkness, after this adaptation has occurred, the eye can detect very faint sources of light, picking up the glow of stars and the dim illumination of the night landscape. This night-adapted vision allowed our ancestors to function during the hours of darkness, to travel and to hunt and to watch for predators, even when the moon was hidden and the stars were their only light. Most of us rarely experience true dark adaptation because we are almost never in conditions of complete darkness for long enough. The glow of screens and street lights, the illumination that seeps in around curtains and under doors, the ready availability of flashlights and phone screens, all of these prevent our eyes from fully adapting to the dark. But the capacity is still there, and those who seek out true darkness, whether in remote wilderness areas or deep in caves, discover that their eyes can see far more than they expected when given the chance to adapt. There is something restful about the darkness, about allowing the eyes to close and the visual system to rest from the constant stimulation of the lit world. Your eyes have been working hard all day, processing the endless stream of images and text and screens that modern life provides. Now they can close. Now they can rest. Now they can return to the ancient darkness that was the natural condition of human nights for most of our history. The darkness is not empty, but full. Full of the rest your eyes need, full of the peace that comes when the visual world fades and other senses take its place. The ability to hear subtle sounds, to detect and interpret the quiet noises of the natural world, is another forgotten capacity that still resides within us. Our ancestors lived in acoustic environments very different from the ones most of us inhabit. There were no engines, no electronic hums, no traffic noise, no air conditioning fans. The soundscape was made up of natural sounds, the wind in trees, the calls of birds and animals, the flow of water, the rustle of grass. Within this quieter environment, small sounds stood out clearly, and the ability to detect and interpret them was valuable for both hunting and avoiding danger. People who spend time in truly quiet environments, far from the noise of modern life, often report that their hearing seems to sharpen, that they become aware of sounds they would never notice in their ordinary environments. This is partly because there is less masking noise to obscure quiet sounds, but it may also be that the auditory system recalibrates in the absence of constant stimulation, becoming more sensitive to the subtle. The capacity for acute hearing is still within us, still functional, simply overwhelmed by the noise of the world we have created. The sounds you might hear now, whatever ambient noise surrounds your resting place, are part of the soundscape of your sleep. Let them be what they are, neither pursuing them nor pushing them away. The sounds of the modern world are different from the sounds our ancestors heard, but the ears that receive them are the same, evolved to detect the approach of danger and the presence of opportunity, now simply resting, receiving whatever comes, not needing to analyze or respond. Our ancestors possessed a remarkable tolerance for temperature extremes that most of us have lost through our dependence on climate control. They lived in environments ranging from tropical heat to Arctic cold, and they survived with minimal clothing and shelter compared to what we consider necessary. The human body is capable of adapting to a wide range of temperatures, increasing or decreasing its metabolic rate, adjusting blood flow to conserve or release heat, triggering shivering or sweating as needed. These thermoregulatory abilities are still present, but are rarely fully developed in people who live in constantly climate-controlled environments. Cold exposure within safe limits has been shown to activate dormant metabolic pathways, to increase the production of brown fat that generates heat, to improve the body's ability to maintain core temperature in challenging conditions. People who regularly expose themselves to cold water or cold air develop a tolerance that would seem impossible to those who have never done so. The same is true for heat, with the body becoming more efficient at cooling itself through sweating and blood flow adjustments when regularly exposed to high temperatures. The ability to be comfortable across a wider range of temperatures is still within us, still available to be developed through gradual exposure and adaptation. But for now, in this moment of rest, you can simply allow yourself to be at whatever temperature surrounds you, letting the warmth of blankets or the coolness of night air wash over you without resistance. The body that carried your ancestors through ice ages and tropical summers is still with you, still capable of adapting, still fundamentally equipped for conditions far more challenging than the comfortable room where you now rest. The human sense of smell, while not as acute as that of many other animals, was once far more developed and relied upon than it is today. Our ancestors used their noses to detect danger, to find food, to identify other people, to sense changes in the weather. The olfactory system is directly connected to some of the most ancient parts of the brain, including the limbic system that processes emotion and memory. This is why smells can trigger such powerful and immediate emotional responses, why a particular scent can transport us instantly to a memory from decades ago. People who train their sense of smell, such as perfumers and wine tasters, develop abilities that seem extraordinary to those who have never practiced. They can detect and identify minute quantities of aromatic compounds, distinguishing between hundreds of different scents and naming them with precision. This is not a special gift, but a developed capacity, the refinement of an ability that is present in all of us. Our ancestors, living closer to the earth and more dependent on their senses, likely had far more developed olfactory awareness than most of us today. The smells around you now, whatever they may be, are entering your awareness through one of the most ancient sensory pathways in your brain. Perhaps there is the scent of bedding or of night air through a window. Perhaps the residue of dinner or the neutral absence of any strong smell at all. Whatever you smell is connecting you to a sensory heritage that extends back millions of years, to ancestors for whom the world was rich with olfactory information that guided their actions and shaped their memories. The capacity for intuitive timekeeping, for sensing the passage of hours without clocks, is another ability that has faded with the ubiquity of timepieces. Our ancestors knew what time it was by the position of the sun, the length of shadows, the behavior of animals, the rhythms of their own bodies. They could wake at a particular hour, keep appointments, and coordinate activities with others without ever consulting a mechanical device. This internal sense of time was accurate enough for the needs of their lives, calibrated by regular exposure to the cycles of day and night. Shift workers and travelers who cross time zones often experience the disorientation that comes when the internal clock is out of sync with the external environment. This disorientation is evidence of how powerful the internal clock is, how strongly it expects certain things to happen at certain times. The capacity for accurate time sense is still within us, still operating, even though we rarely rely on it. Those who spend extended periods without access to clocks often find that their internal sense of time becomes more reliable, that they begin to wake naturally at the appropriate hour and to feel hungry at mealtimes without any external cues. The time now is the time for rest, whatever the clock might say. Your body has its own sense of time, its own readiness for sleep that has been building through the hours of the day. This internal clock has been running since you were born, and its ancestors have been running for as long as humans have existed. Trust it now. Let it guide you into rest. Let it tell you that this is the time for closing eyes and slowing breath and releasing the grip of waking consciousness. The ability to fast, to go without food for extended periods, is a capacity that was essential for our ancestors and that remains present in our bodies today. For most of human history, food was not constantly available. There were periods of abundance and periods of scarcity, and the human body evolved to function well in both conditions. When food was scarce, the body would switch to using stored fat for energy, entering a state of ketosis that could sustain life for days or even weeks without eating. Modern research on fasting has revealed that this capacity is not only still present, but may also carry health benefits. The body's systems for handling periods without food are complex and sophisticated, triggering cellular repair processes and metabolic adjustments that have been linked to longevity and disease prevention. Of course, most of us no longer need to fast for survival, and we have ready access to food at almost any hour. But the ability to function without constant eating is still within us, a reminder of the resilience our bodies possess. You need not think about food now. If you are comfortable, if your stomach is at ease, that is enough. The body that could carry your ancestors through times of famine is resting now. Not because there is nothing to eat, but simply because it is time to rest. The ability to be at peace without constant consumption, to simply be without doing or taking in, is part of this same capacity. Rest requires no intake, no addition, no acquisition. It asks only that you allow yourself to be, to exist quietly in this moment, to let the body do what it knows how to do. The capacity for segmented sleep, for sleeping in 2 distinct periods with a waking interval between them, may be more natural to human biology than the consolidated 8-hour block that modern culture treats as normal. Historical evidence suggests that before artificial lighting made it easy to extend the day into the night, many people slept in 2 phases, going to bed shortly after dark, waking for an hour or 2 in the middle of the night, and then sleeping again until dawn. This middle-of-the-night waking period was used for various quiet activities, for prayer or contemplation, for conversation with a sleeping partner, for small tasks that could be done by candlelight. When modern researchers have placed subjects in environments without artificial light, many of them naturally fall into this pattern of segmented sleep, suggesting that it may be the default mode for human sleep when not overridden by artificial lighting and cultural expectations. The waking period between sleep phases is characterized by unusual brain states, with elevated levels of prolactin and a calm, meditative quality that is different from ordinary waking consciousness. If you ever wake in the middle of the night, there is no need for anxiety or frustration. It may simply be your body remembering an older pattern, a way of sleeping that served humanity well for thousands of years. The night is long and accommodating, and there is time for all the sleep you need, whether it comes in 1 block or 2 or in some other pattern that suits your individual body. Trust the process. Trust that sleep will come and come again, that the hours of darkness are sufficient for rest, that your body knows what it needs even if your mind has forgotten. Our ancestors possessed sophisticated knowledge of plants and their properties, knowledge that has largely been lost as we have come to rely on processed foods and pharmaceutical medicines. They knew which plants were safe to eat and which were poisonous, which could heal and which could harm, which could dye fabric and which could repel insects. This botanical knowledge was accumulated over countless generations and was essential for survival in environments where supermarkets and pharmacies did not exist. Herbalists and ethnobotanists who study traditional plant knowledge are often amazed by its depth and accuracy. Indigenous peoples have known for centuries about the medicinal properties of plants that modern science is only now beginning to study and confirm. The ability to identify plants, to understand their properties, to use them for food and medicine and tools is a form of intelligence that has largely been outsourced to specialists in the modern world. But the capacity to learn and retain this knowledge is still present in human minds, still ready to be developed if circumstances require. The plants around you now, if any are near, are descendants of the same species that our ancestors knew and used. The air you breathe has been filtered through leaves, produced by the photosynthesis that sustains all life on Earth. Even in the most urban environments, plants persist, growing in cracks and parks and windowsills, continuing the green presence that has accompanied human life since its beginning. You need not identify them or use them now. Simply rest in the knowledge that the relationship between humans and plants is ancient and ongoing, that the oxygen entering your lungs is a gift from the vegetable kingdom, freely given with each breath. The human foot, now usually confined in shoes and protected from direct contact with the ground, was once an organ of remarkable sensitivity and capability. Our ancestors walked barefoot over all kinds of terrain, and their feet developed strength and sensitivity in response. The sole of the foot contains thousands of nerve endings that provide information about the surface being walked upon, and walking barefoot activates these sensors in ways that walking in shoes does not. Studies of people who habitually go barefoot show that their feet are healthier in many ways than the feet of shoe wearers, with stronger muscles, more flexible joints, and fewer of the problems like bunions and hammer toes that can result from ill-fitting footwear. The gait of barefoot walkers is also different, with a tendency to land on the forefoot rather than the heel, a pattern that may reduce impact forces on the joints. The human foot evolved for barefoot walking, and the ability to walk and run efficiently without shoes is still present, still available to be developed if we choose. Your feet may be resting now, freed from the shoes that confined them during the day. Feel them if you wish. Feel the release of tension, the ease of lying flat without any weight to bear. These are ancient feet, their design perfected over millions of years of walking on African savannas and Asian forests and European tundra. They have carried your ancestors across continents, and they will carry you wherever you need to go. But not now. Now they can simply rest, simply be, simply exist without purpose or expectation. The capacity for squatting, for resting in a deep squat with the heels flat on the ground, is natural to human bodies, but has been largely lost in cultures that use chairs. In many parts of the world, people still squat as a resting position, and they maintain the flexibility in their ankles, knees, and hips that this position requires. Children everywhere can squat naturally, but in chair-using cultures, this ability is often lost by adulthood as the joints stiffen from disuse. The squat position is more than just a way of resting. It is also the natural position for elimination, and there is evidence that it is healthier for the body's plumbing than the sitting position used in modern toilets. The ability to squat deeply is also useful for many kinds of work, for gardening and foraging and childcare, and its loss represents a reduction in the body's functional capacity. But like so many forgotten abilities, the capacity to squat can be regained through gradual practice, the joints slowly recovering their range of motion when consistently asked to do so. Your body may be lying flat now, or curled on its side, whatever position feels comfortable for sleep. The position you have chosen is the right position for this moment, the one that allows you to rest most completely. There is no need to squat or to do anything at all. Simply lie where you are, in whatever shape your body has taken, and let that be enough. The ability to climb, to ascend trees and rocks with confidence and skill, is another human capacity that has faded for most of us with the advent of built environments and liability concerns. Our ancestors were capable climbers, and our primate heritage goes back to creatures who lived primarily in trees. The human body retains adaptations for climbing, including gripping hands and feet, flexible shoulders, and the ability to judge distances and plan routes upward. Children climb naturally when given the opportunity, and adults who continue to climb maintain abilities that non-climbers have forgotten. There is something primal about being above the ground, about ascending to a higher vantage point and looking out over the world below. This elevation changes perspective, reveals patterns that were invisible from ground level, provides safety from certain dangers while exposing to others. Our ancestors knew the trees of their territories intimately, knew which were easy to climb and which held the best fruit, knew which could provide refuge from predators, and which could bear their weight. This arboreal knowledge was part of their inheritance, passed down through generations of climbers. You are not climbing now. You are lying as close to the ground as you will be until you rise again tomorrow. This is the time for being low, for surrendering to gravity, for letting the horizontal hold you. The ability to climb will still be there if you ever need it, written into your muscles and your bones, inherited from ancestors who moved as easily upward as forward. But now, there is only rest, only stillness, only the gentle horizontal embrace of whatever surface holds you. The human capacity for swimming is another ability that varies greatly depending on exposure and practice. We are not natural swimmers in the way that some animals are, but we are capable of learning to move through water efficiently and of developing considerable skill with practice. Our ancestors who lived near water learned to swim as naturally as they learned to walk, and their swimming ability allowed them to exploit aquatic resources, to cross rivers, and to cool themselves in hot weather. The diving reflex mentioned earlier is evidence of our aquatic heritage, suggesting that at some point in human evolution, water was a significant part of our environment. Some researchers have proposed an aquatic ape hypothesis, suggesting that humans spent a period of their evolution in semi-aquatic environments, which would explain several of our distinctive features, including our subcutaneous fat, our lack of body hair, and our voluntary control over breathing. Whether or not this hypothesis is correct, the human capacity for swimming and diving is real and can be developed to a remarkable degree. If you have ever floated in water, you may remember the particular quality of relaxation that it provides. The sensation of being supported on all sides, of weight becoming irrelevant, of the usual pressures of gravity being suspended. Lying in bed can approach this feeling, especially as sleep draws near and the boundary between your body and the surface beneath it begins to blur. Imagine yourself floating now, buoyed by something as gentle and supportive as water, held without effort, drifting without direction. The ability to make and control fire was one of the most transformative developments in human history, and while we no longer need to make fire from scratch, the capacity to do so remains within our reach. Our ancestors learned to start fires using friction, spinning a wooden drill against a wooden board until the heat generated by friction ignited tinder, or striking flint against steel to create sparks. These techniques require skill and practice, but they are not beyond the capacity of modern humans to learn. Fire provided warmth, light, protection from predators, and the ability to cook food, which may have been crucial for human evolution by making more nutrients available from the same amount of food. The mastery of fire changed human life profoundly, extending the usable hours of the day into the night, making cold climates habitable, and creating gathering places where social bonds could form. The campfire became a center of human community, a place where stories were told and relationships maintained. You may not have a fire near you now, but the warmth that surrounds you, whether from blankets or heating, or the ambient temperature of the room, is a descendant of that first mastered fire. The darkness that enfolds you is the same darkness that our ancestors pushed back with flames. The same darkness that is now held at bay by electric lights. The ability to create warmth and light when needed is still within human capacity, and the ancient comfort of fire, of being warm and safe in the darkness, is still available to you tonight. Our ancestors possessed remarkable social memories, the ability to remember the complex relationships between dozens or hundreds of individuals, to track kinship connections and social obligations, to remember who had helped and who had harmed, who could be trusted and who should be avoided. This social intelligence was essential for life in small-scale societies where everyone knew everyone else, and where reputation and relationships determined survival. The human brain devotes considerable resources to social cognition, to reading faces and interpreting intentions, to understanding others' mental states and predicting their behavior. We are exquisitely attuned to social cues, able to detect slight changes in expression or tone that indicate shifts in emotion or attitude. This sensitivity evolved because our ancestors' lives depended on accurate social perception, on navigating the complex web of relationships that structured their communities. Modern life often overwhelms our social capacities, presenting us with more faces and more interactions than our brains were designed to handle. The evolutionary psychologist Robin Dunbar has proposed that there is a natural limit to the number of stable social relationships humans can maintain, somewhere around 150 individuals. Beyond this number, the cognitive demands of tracking relationships exceed our capacity, and the intimate social knowledge that characterized ancestral communities becomes impossible to maintain. The people in your life, those you love and those you merely know, are connected to you by threads of relationship that your brain tracks without conscious effort. Even as you rest, some part of you maintains these connections, keeps them alive in memory, holds them ready for when you need them again. You are not alone in the darkness. You are held in a web of relationships that extends outward from you into the community and backward into the past, connecting you to all the humans who have ever lived and who have maintained similar connections to each other. The capacity for acute observation, for noticing details that others miss, was essential for our ancestors and remains within our capabilities today. Hunters needed to observe minute signs of animal passage. Gatherers needed to notice subtle differences between edible and poisonous plants. Everyone needed to be alert to changes in the environment that might signal danger or opportunity. This observational acuity was not special, but normal, the baseline level of attention that survival required. Modern life often dulls this capacity, presenting us with so much visual information that we learn to filter most of it out, attending only to what seems immediately relevant. But the capacity for detailed observation is still there, and it can be reawakened with practice. Artists and naturalists, detectives and doctors all develop forms of acute observation suited to their particular domains. The ability to truly see what is in front of you, to notice what is actually there rather than what you expect to be there, is a skill that can be cultivated by anyone willing to slow down and pay attention. You need not pay close attention now. Indeed, the approach of sleep involves letting go of attention, allowing the focus of the day to soften into the diffuse awareness of rest. But know that the capacity for keen observation is part of your inheritance, part of what makes you human, available when you need it, and willing to rest when you do not. The ability to go without sleep for extended periods, while uncomfortable and ultimately harmful, is something humans are capable of under extreme circumstances. Our ancestors sometimes needed to remain awake through the night, whether to guard against predators, to travel urgent distances, or to attend to emergencies. The human body can function for days without sleep, though performance degrades progressively, and the need for rest eventually becomes overwhelming. This capacity for sleep deprivation is not something to aspire to, but it is part of our biological heritage, evidence of the flexibility of human physiology and the range of conditions we can endure when necessary. The military personnel and emergency workers and new parents who sometimes go without adequate sleep are drawing on the same reserves that our ancestors tapped in times of crisis. The body can do this when it must, though it prefers not to, and it will claim its rest eventually with interest. Tonight, you are not being asked to stay awake. Tonight, the only thing asked of you is that you rest, that you allow sleep to come, that you surrender to the ancient process of nightly restoration that your body knows and needs. The capacity to forego sleep is there if you ever need it, but right now it can remain dormant. Right now, there is only the invitation to rest, the opportunity to repay whatever sleep debt you may carry, the gentle descent into the restorative darkness. Our ancestors had intimate knowledge of the seasons, of the progression of changes that moved through the year in their particular environment. They knew when certain plants would fruit and when certain animals would migrate, when rivers would flood and when droughts would come. This seasonal knowledge was practical, guiding their activities through the year, but it was also a form of connection to the larger patterns of the living world. An understanding that human life was embedded in cycles much greater than any individual lifespan. Modern life often obscures the seasons, with climate-controlled buildings and food shipped from the other side of the world, with artificial lighting that overrides the natural changes in day length, with calendars and schedules that impose an artificial regularity regardless of what the sun and the weather are doing. But the seasons are still there, still turning, still affecting our bodies and our moods in ways we may not consciously notice. The tendency to feel sleepy in winter darkness, the energy that comes with spring light, these are remnants of a seasonal sensitivity that once guided human activity. Whatever season surrounds you now, it is the right season for this moment, the natural frame for your rest tonight. The night outside, whether cold or warm, whether long or short, is part of a pattern that has been turning since long before humans existed and will continue long after we are gone. You are resting within that pattern, participating in the ancient rhythm of day and night, of waking and sleeping, that has governed life on Earth for billions of years. The ability to read animal behavior, to understand what animals were doing and why, was crucial for our ancestors who depended on animals for food, and who were in turn sometimes food for animals. They knew the body language of the creatures they hunted, could tell when an animal was calm and when it was about to flee, could predict its movements and anticipate its reactions. This knowledge was acquired through long observation and was essential for successful hunting. Similarly, they understood the animals that posed threats to them, knew how predators behaved, and how to avoid or escape them. The behaviors that helped them survive in a world with lions and bears are still part of our instinctive repertoire, including the fear responses that are triggered by certain patterns of movement or sound. We no longer live among large predators for the most part, but the ancient wariness remains, ready to be activated if needed. The animals you encounter in modern life, whether pets or urban wildlife, are distant descendants of the creatures our ancestors knew. The dog that may sleep near you carries within it the heritage of the wolf, domesticated over thousands of years into a companion. The birds that sing outside your window are relatives of the birds whose behavior told our ancestors about weather and seasons and the approach of danger. The connection between humans and other animals is ancient and deep, and even in sleep, some awareness of the animal world may persist. The capacity for stillness, for remaining motionless for extended periods, was important for both hunting and hiding. Our ancestors could wait in ambush for hours, remaining perfectly still until their prey came within range. They could also freeze to avoid detection by predators, becoming invisible through the simple technique of not moving. This capacity for stillness is still present in humans, though we rarely use it in modern life where there is almost always something to do, somewhere to go, some movement required. The deepest rest comes when we are truly still, when the restless movements and fidgets of the body cease and the stillness of sleep takes hold. As you lie here now, you may notice how your body has already begun to settle into this stillness, how the impulse to move has begun to fade, how the effort of maintaining any particular position has dissolved into simply being where you are. This is the natural stillness of the body preparing for sleep, the ancient quiet that precedes the surrender of consciousness. The ability to enter altered states of consciousness through various means was known to many traditional cultures. Rhythmic drumming, repetitive chanting, prolonged fasting, extreme physical exertion, and certain plants could all induce states different from ordinary waking consciousness. These altered states were often sought for spiritual or healing purposes, and the techniques for achieving them were passed down through generations of shamans and healers. Modern research has confirmed that the brain is capable of many different states of consciousness, that the ordinary waking state we consider normal is just one of several possible modes of functioning. Meditation, hypnosis, flow states in skilled activities, and of course sleep and dreaming are all forms of altered consciousness that most people experience. The capacity to shift between these states, to access different modes of awareness, is part of what makes the human mind so flexible and adaptive. Sleep itself is an altered state, a mode of consciousness very different from waking. As you move toward it now, you are moving toward a state where the rules are different, where the usual concerns of waking life no longer apply, where the mind can do its quiet work of consolidation and restoration. This is not a foreign state, but a familiar one, a place you visit every night, a home that always welcomes you back. Our ancestors were skilled at making shelters from natural materials, at creating protected spaces from whatever was available in their environment. From brush huts to igloos, from lean-tos to elaborate structures of stone and timber, humans have always had the ability to shape their environment into places of safety and comfort. This capacity for building emerged from the need for protection from weather and predators, and it represents one of the distinctive abilities of our species. The space where you rest now is a kind of shelter, however elaborate or simple it may be. Walls and roof and floor enclose you, separating inside from outside, safety from danger, rest from work. This enclosure is the descendant of all the shelters your ancestors ever built, all the protected spaces they created so that they could sleep in peace. The ability to build such spaces is still within us, still one of the defining capabilities of our species, though now most of us rely on others to construct our shelters and maintain them. Within your shelter now, you are safe. Whatever is outside cannot reach you. The darkness that fills the room is a protective darkness, the darkness of an enclosed space, not the exposed darkness of the open night. This is where you belong right now, in this protected place, in this envelope of safety that allows you to release your vigilance and surrender to sleep. The capacity for bonding with infants, for responding to the cries and needs of babies with powerful emotional responses, is built into human biology and was essential for the survival of our species. Human infants are born in a very immature state, unable to care for themselves for many years, and they require intensive care and attention from adults. The emotional systems that motivate this care, the love and protectiveness that parents feel for children, are among the most powerful forces in human psychology. This capacity for bonding extends beyond infants to include other family members, friends, and even strangers in need. The human ability to form attachments, to care for others, to be moved by the suffering of fellow creatures is part of what makes us human. Our ancestors survived not as isolated individuals, but as members of bonded groups, and the emotions that held these groups together are still active in us, still shaping our relationships and our responses to others. Whether or not you have children, whether or not you are currently caring for anyone, the capacity for nurturing is within you, part of your biological inheritance. As you rest now, you can extend some of that nurturing attention to yourself, caring for your own needs as gently as you might care for a child. You need rest now. You deserve rest now. Allow yourself to receive the care you would offer to someone you love. The ability to learn and use language is perhaps the most distinctive human capacity, the one that has made possible all the rest. Language allows us to share information, to coordinate activities, to pass knowledge across generations, to think thoughts that would be impossible without words. Our ancestors developed this capacity over hundreds of thousands of years, and every human culture has language, though no other species has anything comparable. The words you are hearing now, or reading, or imagining, are part of this ancient inheritance. They are symbols, sounds, or marks that carry meaning, that connect the mind of the speaker to the mind of the listener. This connection is miraculous when you consider it, this ability to convey thought from one person to another, to transmit ideas across distance and time. Yet it is also utterly ordinary, something we do constantly without thinking about it, one of the most fundamental and forgotten abilities of our species. Language can carry you toward sleep or hold you in waking. The words here are meant to carry you toward rest, to ease the mind rather than stimulate it, to provide a gentle stream of meaning that asks nothing in return. They are not important in themselves. They are merely a vehicle, a conveyance, a means of guiding you from where you were to where you are going. As you drift deeper toward sleep, the words may begin to lose their distinctness, becoming just sounds, just vibrations, just a soothing presence that accompanies you without demanding attention. Our ancestors had remarkable resilience, the ability to recover from injuries and illnesses that would be life-threatening without modern medicine. Their bodies healed wounds, fought off infections, mended bones, and restored function after trauma. This healing capacity is still present in every human body. The same biological systems still operating, still repairing the damage of daily life and recovering from illness and injury. Sleep is one of the primary times when healing occurs. During sleep, the body increases production of growth hormone, which promotes tissue repair. The immune system is more active during sleep, fighting off pathogens and restoring balance. The brain clears out metabolic waste products that accumulated during the day. Sleep is not merely rest, but active restoration, a time when the body does important work that cannot be done during waking hours. Whatever needs healing in your body or your mind, sleep will help. The hours of rest ahead offer an opportunity for restoration that waking cannot provide. Trust the process. Trust that your body knows what needs to be repaired and has the capacity to repair it. The same healing abilities that kept your ancestors alive through countless injuries and illnesses are working in you now, quietly doing what they know how to do. The capacity for joy, for experiencing pleasure and happiness, is built into the human brain and was present in our ancestors as surely as it is present in us. Joy is not a modern invention, but an ancient adaptation, a response that motivates us to pursue what is good for us and to bond with others. Our ancestors knew joy in the taste of food after hunger, in the warmth of fire after cold, in the embrace of loved ones after separation, in the beauty of the natural world. Modern life offers many sources of pleasure, though not all of them lead to genuine joy. The happiness that comes from deep connection, from meaningful activity, from being present in the moment, is the same happiness that our ancestors knew. This capacity for joy is not something we need to create, but something we need to allow, to make space for, to stop obscuring with busyness and distraction. There can be joy even in rest, even in the simple act of lying still and letting go. The comfort of the bed, the softness of the darkness, the absence of demands. These can be sources of quiet joy if we let them. As you settle deeper into sleep, allow yourself to feel whatever pleasure the moment offers, the basic goodness of being alive and resting, the simple happiness of peace. The human body possesses a remarkable capacity for adapting to altitude, for functioning in the thin air of high mountains where oxygen is scarce. Our ancestors who migrated to high-altitude environments developed physiological adaptations over generations, their bodies becoming more efficient at extracting and using limited oxygen. The peoples of the Tibetan Plateau, the Andean highlands, and the Ethiopian mountains all show these adaptations, evidence of human bodies responding to environmental challenges over time. Even those without this genetic heritage can adapt to altitude through acclimatization, the body's short-term response to reduced oxygen. Given time, the blood produces more red cells to carry oxygen. The lungs and heart become more efficient, and the body learns to function on less. This plasticity, this ability to adjust to changing conditions, is part of our evolutionary heritage, a reminder that we are not fixed in our capacities, but capable of changing in response to need. You are lying at whatever altitude surrounds you, breathing the air available to you, your body adjusted to the conditions it knows. The breath that enters your lungs is exactly what you need, the oxygen circulating through your blood sufficient for rest. There is no mountain to climb tonight, no thin air to adapt to. Only the ordinary atmosphere of your ordinary place, carrying you through another night of ordinary, extraordinary sleep. The capacity for cooperative labor, for working together with others toward shared goals, is fundamental to human nature and was essential for our ancestors' survival. Hunting large animals, building shelters, defending against predators, caring for children, all of these required cooperation, the ability to coordinate efforts with others, to trust and be trusted, to work toward outcomes that benefited the group. This cooperative capacity is built into our social instincts, our capacity for communication, our ability to understand and predict the behavior of others. Modern work often involves cooperation, but it is frequently more abstract and mediated than the direct physical cooperation of our ancestors. The satisfaction of working together with others, of contributing to a shared project, of being part of a team that accomplishes something none could do alone, this satisfaction has ancient roots. We are built for collaboration, for the give and take of shared labor, for the mutual aid that makes difficult things possible. Tonight, your cooperation is simple. You cooperate with sleep, with the natural process that asks only that you allow it to happen. You work together with your body, with the systems that know how to rest and restore, with the ancient machinery of sleep that has operated in human beings since the beginning. This is the most basic cooperation, the partnership between conscious intention and unconscious process, between the part of you that decides to sleep and the part that actually does the sleeping. Our ancestors had deep knowledge of the materials in their environments, knowing which stones made the best tools and which woods made the best bows, which clays were suitable for pottery, and which plants provided the strongest fibers. This material intelligence was acquired through generations of experimentation and observation, passed down through demonstration and practice, forming a body of practical knowledge that modern people rarely possess. The objects that surround you now are made of materials that someone understood, that someone shaped and formed using knowledge of their properties. The fabric of your bedding, the substance of your mattress, the materials of walls and floor and ceiling, all of these represent accumulated knowledge about how materials behave and what they can be made to do. This knowledge is still present in human cultures, held by craftspeople and engineers and scientists, even if most of us no longer directly possess it. You need not understand the materials around you to benefit from them. The comfort they provide does not require comprehension. Simply receive what they offer. The softness and warmth and support, the product of countless generations of human understanding applied to the challenge of creating comfortable rest. Let the knowledge embedded in these objects serve you without requiring anything in return. The ability to identify and interpret the calls of birds was once common knowledge, a form of literacy as practical as reading text is today. Our ancestors knew which birds sang at dawn and which at dusk, which calls indicated alarm and which contentment, which species lived where and what their presence indicated about the environment. This avian literacy provided valuable information about the state of the world, about the approach of predators or humans, about the location of water or the changing of seasons. Birdwatchers and ornithologists still develop this literacy, learning to identify species by song and to interpret the meaning of different calls. The capacity to learn these distinctions is present in all of us, though most never develop it. The birds that sing outside your window or in the parks you pass are speaking a language that could be understood if you chose to learn it, carrying on conversations in codes that have evolved over millions of years. The birds are quiet now, or should be, the night birds perhaps calling if you live where they are found, but most species silent until dawn. This is their time for rest, too, for perching in safe places and tucking heads under wings and sleeping as birds sleep. Differently from humans, but no less necessarily, the world of birds rests around you, waiting for the light that will set them singing again. The capacity for long-term planning, for thinking ahead across months and years and even generations, was essential for our ancestors' survival and remains part of our cognitive equipment. They had to think about the seasons that would come, storing food for winter, planning migrations to follow resources, preparing for events that were predictable but distant. This temporal awareness, this ability to hold the future in mind while living in the present, is one of the distinctive features of human cognition. Modern life requires extensive planning, often of an abstract and complex kind that our ancestors never faced. But the basic capacity is the same, the ability to imagine future states and to take present action in light of them. We plan for careers and retirements, for the education of children and the care of aging parents, for goals that may take decades to achieve. This planning capacity can be a source of anxiety, the mind running forward into futures that may never arrive, but it can also be a source of security, the confidence that comes from having prepared for what is to come. Tonight, you can set down the burden of planning. The future can take care of itself for a few hours while you rest. Whatever plans you have made will still be there in the morning, waiting for your attention when you are refreshed. The capacity for planning is part of what makes you human, but so is the capacity for rest, for releasing the future, and simply being present in the moment, for trusting that some things will work out without your constant supervision. Our ancestors understood the properties of water, knowing where to find it and how to use it, how to cross rivers and navigate coasts, how to store it for dry times and avoid contaminated sources. Water was life, the most essential of resources, and the knowledge of water was passed down through countless generations. The ability to find water in apparently dry landscapes, to read the signs that indicated underground sources, was a survival skill of the highest order. The water in your body right now is the same water that has cycled through the Earth system for billions of years, the same water that sustained your ancestors and every other creature that has ever lived. This water makes up most of your body, flows in your blood and fills your cells, is essential for every metabolic process that keeps you alive. You are, in a very real sense, animated water, a pattern of organization imposed on the universal solvent that makes Earth's biology possible. Whatever hydration your body has, it is sufficient for the night ahead. The water within you will continue its work of transport and reaction, carrying nutrients and removing wastes, facilitating the chemistry of life while you sleep. This happens without your attention, without your direction, without any effort on your part. Simply rest and let the water do what it knows how to do. The capacity for emotional regulation, for managing the intensity and expression of feelings, was important for our ancestors and remains important today. Life in small groups required the ability to control anger and fear, to moderate jealousy and resentment, to maintain composure in challenging situations. Those who could not regulate their emotions would have struggled in the close quarters of ancestral life, where conflicts could have serious consequences for survival. Modern life continues to require emotional regulation, though the contexts are different. We manage our feelings at work and in traffic, in relationships and in public spaces, channeling and modulating the ancient emotional systems that evolved for different circumstances. This capacity for regulation is still within us, still functional, though some of us are more skilled at it than others, and all of us can improve with practice. As you approach sleep, a kind of emotional regulation is happening naturally. The arousal of the day is fading, the stress and excitement and engagement giving way to calmer states. This is the emotional work of preparing for rest, the descent from waking's intensity to sleep's quiet. Allow this to happen. Allow the emotional temperature to drop, the feelings to settle, the inner weather to grow calm. This is natural. This is healthy. This is how the system is designed to work. The human hand's capacity for precision grip, for holding small objects between thumb and fingertips with fine control, is distinctive among primates and was essential for tool making and tool use. This precision grip allows us to thread needles and tie knots, to write and draw and type, to manipulate objects with a delicacy that no other animal can match. The evolution of this capacity was linked to the evolution of the brain regions that control the hand, with each development enabling the other in a feedback loop that produced human manual dexterity. The hands that rest at your sides or on your chest have this capacity for precision, though they are not using it now. They are capable of remarkable feats of manipulation, of producing art and technology, and all the material expressions of human culture. But they are also capable of simply resting, of lying still and doing nothing, of being rather than doing. This capacity for stillness is as important as the capacity for action, the ability to not grasp, to not reach, to not manipulate, to simply be at rest. Let your hands be completely relaxed now, fingers slightly curled, palms soft, all the small muscles that enable precision grip at ease. There is nothing to pick up, nothing to manipulate, nothing to do. The capacity for action remains, waiting for tomorrow. But tonight the hands can simply rest, trusting that they will be ready when needed again. Our ancestors possessed the ability to read the patterns of the moon, to track its phases and predict its light. The lunar cycle governed many aspects of their lives, from tides that affected fishing and coastal gathering to the light available for nighttime activities. The moon's rhythm provided a natural calendar, a way of marking time that was visible to all and that connected human activities to cosmic cycles. Many traditional cultures around the world developed sophisticated lunar calendars, tracking the months and seasons through the changes in the moon's face. This lunar literacy is largely lost in modern life, where electric light makes the moon's illumination irrelevant, and printed or digital calendars replace the natural markers of time. But the moon is still there, still going through its phases, still rising and setting in predictable patterns, still affecting the tides and perhaps affecting human biology in ways we do not fully understand. Whatever phase the moon is in tonight, whether it shines through your window or is hidden below the horizon, it is present, continuing its ancient dance around the earth. This dance has continued for billions of years and will continue for billions more. You are resting within this cosmic rhythm, your sleep held within the larger patterns of celestial mechanics, your brief rest a moment in the vast ongoing of the universe. The ability to make decisions quickly in dangerous situations, to act before conscious thought catches up, was essential for our ancestors who faced threats that could kill in moments. This rapid decision-making system, sometimes called the fight-or-flight response, is still active in modern humans, still triggering automatic reactions when the brain perceives danger. The pounding heart, the surge of adrenaline, the heightened alertness, these are ancient responses to ancient dangers. In modern life, this system is often activated by situations that are not truly life-threatening, by work stress and social anxiety and the various pressures of contemporary existence. The body responds to these modern stressors as if they were predators or enemies, mounting a physiological response that may not be appropriate to the actual situation. This mismatch between ancient response and modern trigger is one of the challenges of living with an evolved body in a changed world. Tonight, there is no danger. Tonight, the ancient alarm system can stand down, can release its vigilance, can allow the body to enter the relaxed state that sleep requires. Whatever stressors may have activated your fight-or-flight response during the day, they are not present now. You are safe. The danger detection system can rest, trusting that nothing threatens you in this moment, in this place, in this comfortable darkness. The capacity for imitating others, for learning by watching and copying, is fundamental to human culture and was essential for the transmission of skills across generations. Our ancestors learned by observing and imitating, watching their elders make tools and hunt animals and process food, then attempting to do the same. This social learning is far more efficient than individual trial and error, allowing each generation to build on what the previous generation had already mastered. The human brain is specially adapted for imitation, with mirror neurons that fire both when we perform an action and when we observe someone else performing it. These neurons may underlie our capacity for empathy as well as for learning, allowing us to understand others' actions by mentally simulating them ourselves. This capacity for imitation is still active in adults, though it is particularly pronounced in children who are learning the skills of their culture. You need not imitate anyone tonight. You need not learn anything or perform any action you have observed. The capacity for imitation can rest along with all your other capacities, dormant but not lost, ready to function when called upon again. Tonight, you are not a student or an apprentice. Tonight, you are simply a resting creature, doing what resting creatures do. The human capacity for aesthetic appreciation, for finding beauty in the world and creating beautiful objects, appears to be ancient, with evidence of decorative behavior extending back hundreds of thousands of years. Our ancestors made objects that went beyond mere utility, that displayed symmetry and pattern and care, that seemed designed to please the eye as well as to serve a function. This aesthetic sense is deeply human, present in every culture and every period of history. The beauty of the natural world, the patterns of stars and the shapes of shells and the colors of flowers were available to our ancestors and moved them as they move us. The impulse to create beauty, to decorate objects and bodies and spaces, seems fundamental to the human experience. We are creatures who care about how things look and who take pleasure in forms and colors and arrangements that we find pleasing. The space where you rest may have elements of beauty, objects chosen for their appearance as well as their function, colors and textures that please the eye, or it may be plain and utilitarian, focused on comfort rather than aesthetics. Either way, you can appreciate whatever you appreciate about it, finding whatever beauty is present, or simply releasing the need to evaluate and assess. The capacity for aesthetic appreciation can rest too, waiting for tomorrow's encounters with the beautiful. Our ancestors had remarkable spatial memory, the ability to remember the layout of large territories, the locations of resources, the routes between places. This spatial intelligence was essential for foraging and hunting, for finding one's way home after long journeys, for knowing where danger lurked and where safety could be found. The mental maps they carried were detailed and accurate, products of long experience moving through their environments. Modern life often outsources spatial memory to maps and GPS devices, and many people find their sense of direction atrophying as they rely on external aids. But the capacity for spatial memory is still present, still functional, still capable of being developed and improved with use. Those who practice navigation without aids find that their mental mapping abilities improve, that they begin to carry more detailed and reliable representations of space in their minds. The space you occupy now is familiar to you, at least in its basic layout. You know where the door is, where the windows are, how to navigate to the bathroom in the dark if needed. This spatial knowledge is stored in your brain, available for use without conscious recall. You do not need to consult a map to move through your own home. The space is known, mapped, internalized, and this knowledge allows you to rest secure in the geography of your environment. The ability to communicate through gesture and body language predates spoken language and remains an important channel of human communication. Our ancestors could convey meaning through movements and expressions, through posture and orientation, through the 1,000 subtle signals that bodies send and receive. This nonverbal communication is still active in modern humans, often operating below the level of conscious awareness, conveying information that supplements or sometimes contradicts what is said in words. Even in sleep, the body may communicate, shifting and settling, breathing faster or slower, moving through positions that reflect the inner state of the dreamer. Those who share a bed with partners or pets may notice these nocturnal communications, the restlessness that indicates discomfort, or the stillness that indicates deep rest. The body speaks even when the voice is silent, even when consciousness has withdrawn, continuing its ancient conversation with the world. Your body is communicating now, if only to itself, the relaxing muscles sending signals of release, the slowing breath indicating the approach of sleep, the settling weight confirming that rest is underway. Let the body speak its language of rest. Let every fiber and cell communicate its readiness for sleep. This is the conversation that matters tonight, the dialogue between intention and physiology that leads eventually to the silence of deep rest. Our ancestors knew the tastes of hundreds of different foods, each one distinct and informative. They could detect bitterness that often indicated toxins, sweetness that suggested available energy, the complex flavors that revealed the nutritional content of various foods. This taste literacy allowed them to make good decisions about what to eat in environments where the wrong choice could mean poisoning or malnutrition. The human tongue contains thousands of taste buds, each one a sensor capable of detecting specific chemical compounds. This sensory array was shaped by evolution to guide eating behavior, to steer us toward foods that would nourish and away from foods that would harm. The pleasure we take in certain tastes, the sweet and the savory and the rich, reflects the caloric value these flavors indicated in ancestral environments where calories were often scarce. You are not eating now. The sense of taste is quiet, the tongue resting in the mouth, the taste buds at ease. Whatever you last ate has been processed and digested, its nutrients extracted and distributed through your body. The capacity for taste is dormant, waiting for tomorrow's meals, ready to activate when food is present again. For now, there's only rest, only the quiet mouth, only the peaceful silence of a body done with eating for the day. The human capacity for grief, for mourning the loss of loved ones, is deeply ingrained and was present in our ancestors. Archaeological evidence shows that early humans buried their dead with care, sometimes with grave goods that suggest belief in an afterlife, or at least some form of continued significance. The pain of loss, the sorrow that comes with death, is part of the cost of our social nature, the price we pay for the bonds that make human life meaningful. This capacity for grief is still with us, activated whenever we lose someone we love. The tears and the aching and the difficulty of going on are ancient responses, shaped over millions of years of living in bonded groups where individual deaths affected the survival of the whole. Grief is not a disorder or a weakness, but a natural response to a natural event, the emotional consequence of caring deeply about others. Whatever losses you carry, whatever griefs live in your heart, they do not need to be resolved tonight. They can simply be present, acknowledged, held without struggle. The capacity for grief includes the capacity to rest even while grieving, to sleep even when sorrow is present, to continue living in the face of loss. Rest does not mean forgetting or diminishing what has been lost. It means simply allowing the body what it needs, trusting that morning will come and that life will continue. The ability to throw objects accurately was crucial for our ancestors, who used thrown weapons for hunting and defense. The human body is uniquely adapted for throwing, with shoulder and arm structures that allow for high-velocity, accurate throws. This adaptation set us apart from other primates and allowed our ancestors to hunt prey from a distance and to defend themselves from predators without closing to dangerous proximity. The cognitive capacities required for accurate throwing are substantial. The brain must calculate trajectories, account for gravity and wind and the movement of targets, coordinate the complex sequence of muscle contractions required to release at exactly the right moment. All of this must happen in a fraction of a second, without conscious deliberation, the result of practice and instinct working together. Your throwing arm is at rest now, lying still wherever it lies. The complex capabilities of throwing are present in its muscles and joints and nerves, but they are not being used. The arm can simply rest, relaxed and heavy, not preparing to throw anything, not coiled for action. The stillness of the resting arm is its own kind of achievement, the capacity for not doing balancing the capacity for doing, both equally human. Our ancestors knew how to prepare food in ways that made it more nutritious, more digestible, more safe to eat. Cooking, fermenting, drying, smoking. These techniques transformed raw ingredients into forms that the body could use more efficiently. This knowledge of food preparation was essential for survival and was passed down through generations of practitioners, mostly women who understood the properties of different foods and how to work with them. The food that nourished you today was prepared by someone, whether yourself or others, using techniques that have developed over thousands of years. The meal you ate was the product of agricultural knowledge, cooking skill, and food preservation methods that represent accumulated human wisdom about how to feed bodies. This knowledge is still present in human cultures, still being practiced and developed and passed on. Your stomach and intestines are doing their quiet work now, extracting nutrients from whatever you last ate, processing the food into forms your cells can use. This digestive work continues through the night, though at a reduced pace during sleep. You do not need to direct it or supervise it. The capacity for digestion is autonomous, doing what it needs to do without any conscious input. Simply rest, and let the body handle what the body knows how to handle. The human capacity for storytelling, for constructing and sharing narratives, is one of our distinctive features as a species. Our ancestors told stories around campfires, passing down history and mythology, teaching lessons and entertaining listeners, creating shared understandings that bound communities together. This narrative capacity is still active in modern humans, expressed in novels and films and the constant stream of stories we tell each other and ourselves. The stories we tell ourselves about our own lives shape how we understand our experience and how we imagine our futures. We are all the protagonists of our own ongoing narratives, making sense of what happens to us by placing events in story form. This narrative self is a construction, a way of organizing experience that is distinctly human. The story of your day is over now. Whatever happened, whatever sequence of events brought you from morning to this moment of rest, it has been lived and is now being processed by the sleeping brain. The narrative of tomorrow has not yet begun. You are in the gap between stories, the pause between chapters, the quiet space where narrative is suspended. There is no plot to follow, no conflict to resolve, no character to develop, only rest, only the stillness between stories. Our ancestors knew patience. They knew how to wait for things that took a long time, for seasons to turn and children to grow, for skills to develop and changes to come. This patience was not passive, but active, a willingness to continue doing what was needed without expectation of immediate results. The fruits of their labor often came slowly, and they accepted this as the natural way of things. Modern life often makes patience difficult, with its constant stimulation and its promise of instant gratification. We have grown accustomed to getting what we want when we want it, and waiting feels uncomfortable, even intolerable. But the capacity for patience is still within us, still available when circumstances require it. We can wait when we must, and we can even find peace in waiting if we allow ourselves to accept the pace at which things naturally unfold. Sleep asks for patience. It cannot be rushed or forced. It comes when conditions are right, when the body is ready, when the mind has released its grip on waking concerns. This may take time. The patience to allow this time, to wait without frustration or anxiety, is part of the skill of sleeping well. Rest in patience now. Let the time pass without tracking it. Let sleep come when it comes, trusting that it will come. The capacity to feel awe, to be overwhelmed by the vastness and beauty of the world, is deeply human and was surely present in our ancestors. They saw the same stars we see, were dwarfed by the same mountains, were moved by the same sunsets. The feeling of smallness in the face of immensity, of wonder at the complexity of existence, is part of our psychological inheritance, a response that connects us to something larger than ourselves. Awe is not common in modern life, where we are often too busy to notice the miraculous, too distracted to be moved by the vast. But the capacity is still there, waiting to be activated by an encounter with something that transcends the ordinary. The night sky, when truly dark, can still provoke the same awe that our ancestors felt looking up at the river of the Milky Way. The ocean, the mountains, the vast sweep of time revealed by geology and astronomy, all of these can still awaken the ancient sense of wonder. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, you are participating in something larger than yourself, the rotation of the earth that carries you from day to night, the orbit that carries the earth around the sun, the movement of the sun through the galaxy, the expansion of the universe itself. All of these are happening as you rest, carrying you through space at unimaginable speeds. You are part of something vast and ancient and ongoing, and your rest tonight is held within that vastness, a small moment in an immense story. The human capacity for creativity, for imagining and making things that have never existed before, distinguishes us from all other species. Our ancestors invented tools and technologies, created art and music, developed languages and rituals, constantly bringing new things into the world. This creative capacity is still with us, still active in the making of art and the solving of problems and the imagining of possibilities. Creativity often requires a period of incubation, a time when the conscious mind steps back and allows unconscious processes to work on problems. Sleep may be particularly important for this kind of creative processing, with the sleeping brain making connections and finding solutions that eluded the waking mind. Many artists and scientists have reported breakthrough insights that came to them in dreams or upon waking from sleep. Tonight, your brain may be doing creative work that you will not be aware of, processing the experiences of the day and making connections between ideas and memories. This work happens without your direction, without any effort on your part. You can trust the process. You can rest in the knowledge that something generative may be happening even in the silence of sleep, that the creative capacity is always working, always ready to surprise you with what it produces. Our ancestors possessed the ability to recognize faces, to distinguish between individuals based on subtle differences in facial features. This face recognition ability is present in human infants and develops rapidly in the first months of life. The brain devotes specific regions to the processing of facial information, and damage to these regions can result in the inability to recognize faces, a condition called prosopagnosia. The ability to recognize faces was essential for social life in small-scale societies where everyone knew everyone else. It allowed individuals to track relationships, to remember who had helped and who had harmed, to navigate the complex social dynamics of ancestral groups. This ability is still with us, still functioning, though modern life may overwhelm it with more faces than our ancestors ever encountered. The faces you saw today, whether of loved ones or strangers, have been processed by your brain and stored in memory to varying degrees. Some you will recognize tomorrow, others you will have forgotten. The face recognition system does not require your conscious attention to do its work. It operates automatically, categorizing and storing and retrieving, maintaining the social information that helps you navigate your world. The capacity for balance, for maintaining an upright posture while moving across uneven terrain, was essential for our ancestors who traveled on foot over all kinds of surfaces. The vestibular system in the inner ear, the proprioceptors in muscles and joints, the visual system, all of these work together to keep us from falling, making constant tiny adjustments to posture and muscle tension without any conscious direction. Modern life often involves flat, even surfaces that make minimal demands on our balance systems. Floors and sidewalks and roads provide reliable footing that requires little adjustment. But the capacity for balance is still present, still functional, still capable of handling more challenging conditions when they arise. Those who practice activities that challenge balance, like hiking on rough terrain or practicing yoga or dancing, find that their balance improves with use. You are lying down now, so balance is not required. The vestibular system can rest from its constant adjustments. The proprioceptors can relax their vigilance. The body can simply be horizontal and supported. This is its own kind of ease, the relief of not needing to stay upright, of surrendering to gravity rather than resisting it. Let yourself be completely horizontal, completely supported, completely at rest from the work of balancing. The human ability to interpret ambiguous information, to make sense of patterns that could have multiple meanings, was crucial for survival in complex natural environments. Our ancestors saw shapes in clouds and heard sounds in wind, constantly parsing the sensory world for information that might be relevant to their well-being. This pattern-seeking tendency sometimes led them astray, finding meaning where there was none, but overall it served them well, alerting them to real dangers and real opportunities that might otherwise have been missed. This pattern-seeking tendency is still active in modern minds, still looking for meaning in ambiguous stimuli, still sometimes finding patterns that are not really there. The shapes we see in clouds, the faces we find in random arrangements, the significance we attribute to coincidences, all of these reflect our pattern-hungry brains doing what they evolved to do. The capacity for finding meaning is a double-edged sword, both illuminating and misleading, but it is part of who we are. Tonight, there is no need to interpret, no need to find patterns, no need to make sense of anything. The sounds around you need not be analyzed. The darkness need not be searched for meaning. Simply let everything be what it is, without the overlay of interpretation, without the drive to understand. The pattern-seeking brain can rest, trusting that there is nothing in the environment that requires its attention, that the moment is safe and simple and does not need to be decoded. Our ancestors had the capacity for sustained physical endurance in heat, for continuing to work and travel under hot sun that would quickly exhaust a creature without our cooling adaptations. The human sweat system is remarkably efficient, allowing heat to be dissipated through evaporation even during intense exertion. This capacity for thermoregulation in hot conditions may have been crucial for our ancestors' survival on the African savannas where our species evolved. The ability to mentalize, to imagine what others are thinking and feeling, to construct models of other minds is fundamental to human social life. Our ancestors needed to predict the behavior of others, to cooperate effectively, to deceive and detect deception, to navigate the complex social dynamics of group life. This capacity for understanding minds developed early in human childhood and continues to operate throughout life. Tonight, you can rest from the work of understanding others. There are no other minds that need to be modeled, no intentions that need to be predicted, no social dynamics that need to be navigated. You are alone with your own mind, which is busy with its own processes, which needs no interpretation or management from you. Simply rest in your own consciousness, letting it do what it does, letting other minds fade from attention until morning brings them back. The capacity for hope, for imagining positive futures and working toward them, is deeply human and must have been present in our ancestors. They lived in difficult conditions, facing dangers and hardships that we can barely imagine, and yet they continued, persisted, reproduced, passed on their genes and their cultures to future generations. This required hope, some form of belief that things could get better, that effort was worthwhile, that the future held possibilities worth living for. Whatever hopes you carry, whatever futures you imagine and work toward, they can rest tonight. The future will still be there tomorrow, still open to your efforts and your dreams. For now, there is only the present moment, this quiet pause between day and day, this small eternity of rest. Hope can sleep beside you, waiting to wake when you wake, refreshed and ready for another day of reaching toward what might be. The ancient capacity for trust, for placing our safety in the hands of others during the vulnerable hours of sleep, remains with us and is activated every time we close our eyes. Our ancestors slept in groups, taking turns keeping watch, trusting that those who stayed awake would alert the sleepers to danger. This fundamental trust in others made sleep possible in a dangerous world, and it continues to make sleep possible today. When you sleep, you are trusting the walls around you, the locks on your doors, the community that surrounds you, the structure of the world that allows you to safely withdraw from consciousness. This trust is not naive, but practical, based on the reasonable expectation that the night will pass without incident, that you will wake safely in the morning, that the world will continue while you are away from it. This is the same trust your ancestors felt, night after night, for hundreds of thousands of years. The capacity for surrender, for letting go of control, for allowing something larger than the conscious self to take over, was essential for our ancestors and remains essential for us. Sleep cannot be willed or forced. It can only be allowed. The conscious mind must step back and permit the sleeping mind to take over, must release its grip on waking concerns and trust the process that it cannot control. This surrender is not weakness but wisdom, not failure but achievement. The ability to let go, to stop striving, to simply allow what will happen to happen, is a skill that our ancestors practiced every night of their lives. It is available to you now, this capacity for surrender, this willingness to stop trying and simply be. Let it carry you now into rest. As these reflections on forgotten human abilities draw toward a close, allow yourself to let go of whatever details you may have noticed, whatever facts or ideas may have caught your attention. They are not meant to be remembered or studied. They are meant only to accompany you toward rest, to give your mind something peaceful to drift through as wakefulness fades. Like leaves floating on a slow river, they have passed by, and now they are passing out of sight, leaving only the gentle current that carries you forward, the abilities we have touched upon tonight, the navigation and tracking and memory, the endurance and climbing and swimming, the observation and stillness and healing. All of these are still within you, still part of your human inheritance. They sleep when you sleep and wake when you wake. They are not lost, but merely dormant, waiting in the quiet depths of your body and brain for the circumstances that might call them forth. You are more capable than you know, carrying within you the accumulated abilities of countless generations of ancestors who survived and thrived in conditions far more challenging than the comfortable room where you now rest. But you do not need any of these abilities tonight. Tonight, you need only the ability to rest, to let go, to surrender to the ancient process of sleep that has renewed human beings since the very beginning of our species. This ability you have already, this capacity to close your eyes and release your grip on waking consciousness and drift into the dark. Let your breathing continue its slow and easy rhythm. Let your body continue its sinking into rest. Let your thoughts continue their gradual fading into the quiet of pre-sleep. There is nothing more to do, nothing more to understand, nothing more to remember. Only rest, only quiet, only the gentle descent into sleep. The darkness is soft around you now. The silence, or whatever sounds surround you, is comfortable and unthreatening. The weight of your body is accepted completely by whatever holds you. Everything is as it should be. Everything is allowing you to rest. Sleep is near now, or already beginning to take you. Let it come. Let it take you wherever it will. Let the dreams come if they come, or let the deep, dreamless rest take you if that is what your body needs. Either way is good. Either way is rest. Either way is the ancient human experience of surrendering to the night. You are safe. You are held. You are part of a long line of sleepers stretching back through time to the very first humans who closed their eyes and let the darkness take them. You join them now, joining the uncountable billions who have rested before you and who have woken again to another day. Sleep is not an ending but a pause, not a loss but a renewal, not a forgetting but a different kind of remembering. Rest now. Rest as your ancestors rested, in full confidence that the morning will come, that waking will return, that the world will still be there when you open your eyes again. But not yet. Not for many hours. For now there is only rest, only sleep, only the peaceful darkness that has been waiting for you all day. Let go. Let go of everything. Let the forgotten abilities remain forgotten for tonight. Let the remembered tasks remain for tomorrow. Let yourself simply be what you are, a resting human, a sleeping creature, a brief consciousness taking its nightly break from the effort of being aware. There is nothing more to say, nothing more to hear, only the gradual fading of words into silence, of thought into dream, of waking into sleep. Rest now. Rest. Sleep. The night holds you. Let it. Rest.